Chosen one, listen closely, for this is no ordinary message. This is a divine announcement, a sacred shift in your life that has been orchestrated by heaven itself. You are not here by accident. Your presence in this moment is a divine appointment set by the Creator of all things. What is happening right now is not a coincidence, but a holy alignment, a divine timing that has been prepared for you from before the foundation of the world. Chosen one, you stand at the edge of a breakthrough, a supernatural transfer that will change the course of your life. The heavens have decided that now is your time, not because of your effort nor your strength, but because you are ready to step into the provision that God has been preparing for you. The doors that once seemed closed are now opening, and the favor of heaven is about to flood into your life in ways you never imagined. This moment is the beginning of your divine elevation, your transformation, and your supernatural wealth transfer. Heaven is declaring that your waiting has ended. The blessing, the shift, and the release are here. And though God's reminders may not always come in words, sometimes it is in the quiet, steady moments that His presence is most deeply felt. There is something already in motion, quietly prepared for you. Chosen one, every tear you carried in silence has been counted, and every night your mind raced with anxious questions has not been ignored. There were moments you kept showing up with a tight chest and a tired smile, doing the next right thing while your heart whispered, "How long will this last?" Heaven saw the hidden places, the private strain, the weight you did not explain to anyone. Not one moment was wasted, and not one prayer disappeared into the air. It has all been moving you toward a turning point, not because you forced it, but because God has been forming you. Anointed one, hear this with your spirit. The season where you had to push past your limits just to stay afloat is breaking. There is a difference between effort and striving, and heaven is calling you out of striving. You were never meant to live as if survival was your assignment. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still, as it is written in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. Stillness means you stop arguing with fear. Stillness means you stop negotiating with panic. Stillness means you stop letting urgency make decisions for you. Chosen one, I need you to recognize what has been happening under the surface. The delays, the closed doors, the missed chances that felt like rejection, many of them were protection. Some rooms you begged to enter would have drained your peace, and some opportunities you thought you lost would have stolen your focus. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. There is a kind of alignment that only comes after disappointment, because disappointment exposes what you were clinging to. And when what you cling to breaks, your hands finally open to receive what God actually intended. Anointed one, this is why this word lands differently. It is not only encouragement, it is impartation. It is heaven touching the inner structure of you, the part that has been trained to brace, to overthink, to calculate worst-case scenarios. You have been living with the habit of scanning for danger, watching the numbers, checking the clock, waiting for the next expense to jump out at you. That habit has a sound, and it sounds like pressure. It shows up when you open your banking app before you even take a full breath in the morning. It shows up when you see an email subject line and your stomach drops before you read it. It shows up when you hear the word money and your shoulders tense as if money is a storm. Chosen one, heaven is interrupting that storm, not by making you careless, but by making you anchored, not by making you reckless, but by making you aligned. God is funding your life, not as a slogan, but as a shift in source. You are being moved from the illusion of control into the reality of provision. This does not mean you stop working. It means you stop worshipping the grind. It means your identity no longer depends on how hard you can push through exhaustion. You are being carried by grace, not grind, and grace has a rhythm. Grace teaches you to move from peace, to plan from clarity, to build from trust. Anointed one, let the word recalibrate you. My God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus, as it is written in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. Notice it does not say he meets your needs according to your ability to worry or your ability to predict what will happen next. Worry has never been your provider. Fear has never been your source. Anxiety has never been your strategy. They were only loud, and loud does not mean true. Chosen one, there is a holy wind in your favor. You may feel it as a strange calm where you used to spiral. You may notice it as clarity returning after months of fog. You may sense it when you realize you can finally say no without guilt, because you are no longer chasing approval to feel safe. Heaven is declaring no more lack thinking, no more fear leading, no more striving as a lifestyle. This is your divine reset, not emotional hype, but a reordering. Anointed one, I want to ground this in something real. Divine provision often starts small enough to be dismissed. A timely refund, a bill that gets resolved without drama, an unexpected discount, a conversation that opens a door you were not even trying to force. Sometimes it is not a loud miracle. Sometimes it is a quiet sequence. The right email at the right time. A connection that feels clean, not manipulative. An idea that arrives with peace instead of pressure. You start to notice that the path is being cleared, and you did not have to beg for it. That is a sign of heaven-backed movement. Chosen one, if your spirit is resonating, do not rush past what is happening inside you right now. This is holy ground we are walking on together, because where 2 or 3 gather in his name, there he is with them, as it is written in Matthew chapter 18, verse 20. And what comes next is not just about money. It is about stewardship, boundaries, and the kind of peace that protects what God is releasing. In the next part, I am going to show you the first internal shift that proves your funding has already begun, and why it always starts there before it shows up anywhere else. Chosen one. There is a reason the anxiety has started to loosen its grip, even before the circumstances have fully changed. That is not denial or distraction, that is evidence. When heaven begins to fund a life, the first place it touches is not the bank account, but the nervous system. Peace arrives before proof. Calm precedes confirmation. This is how divine provision announces itself. Quietly at first, almost easy to miss if you are still addicted to urgency. Anointed one, you have lived long enough in reaction mode, every decision measured by what you might lose, every plan filtered through what could go wrong. That posture trained you to be responsible, but it also trained you to be tense. Heaven is now correcting that posture. You are being taught how to stand without bracing, to breathe without scanning, to move without rushing. That is not laziness. That is alignment. Chosen one, I want to speak to the part of you that learned to survive early, the version of you that became capable too soon, the one who learned how to figure things out alone because there was no guarantee help would arrive on time. That version kept you alive, but it is not meant to lead you into overflow. Survival skills do not translate well into seasons of provision. They will make you hoard when you are meant to steward. They will make you suspicious when you are meant to receive. They will make you restless when you are meant to rest. Anointed one, this is why God is not just sending resources, He is sending re-education. He is teaching you a new internal language, a language where your first response is not panic, but prayer, not calculation, but trust, not tightening, but opening. The old reflex said, "Hurry before it disappears." The new rhythm says, "It is held, it is covered, it is sustained." Chosen one, divine funding does not mean money falls from the sky without wisdom. It means wisdom arrives before money, so the money does not ruin you when it comes. I have watched people receive sudden increase without inner preparation, and the weight of it crushed their peace. They gained numbers and lost themselves. Heaven does not bless that way. God funds futures by first stabilizing foundations. Anointed one, pay attention to what is shifting in you lately. You may notice you are less reactive to other people's opinions. You may notice you do not feel the same urgency to explain yourself. You may notice that certain conversations feel noisy and you instinctively pull back. That is discernment growing. That is capacity expanding. That is the sign that your life is being reorganized around a higher source. Chosen one, when heaven becomes your provider, comparison loses its power. You stop measuring your pace against other people's timelines. You stop assuming their speed means your delay. You stop believing their visibility means your invisibility. Divine provision does not rush because it is not insecure. It arrives on time, not early enough to expose you and not late enough to break you. Anointed one, remember this. God does not fund chaos. He funds clarity. He does not fuel panic. He fuels purpose. If something in your life has felt stuck, ask yourself honestly if your inner world was ready to hold what you were asking for. Some things had to wait until your identity was no longer tied to lack, until money would not become your God, your proof, or your shield. Chosen one, this is why rest is becoming a discipline for you now. Rest is not a reward for finishing everything. It is a declaration that you trust the source. Rest tells heaven, I believe you are working even when I stop. Anxiety says, if I do not worry, nothing will move. Faith says, because I trust, everything aligns. Anointed one, let me say this plainly. The provision coming into your life will not look like rescue. It will look like partnership. God is not swooping in to save you from responsibility. He is standing beside you to multiply what you place in His hands. Your obedience will matter. Your integrity will matter. Your stewardship will matter. But the weight of making everything happen alone is lifting. Chosen one, there is a moment approaching where you will look back and realize the stress you carried was never required. That the strain was optional. That the pressure came from believing you were unsupported. That realization alone will change how you build, how you lead, how you give, and how you receive. Anointed one, stay with this, because in the next part, I am going to speak about the external signs that divine funding has already started moving toward you, even if you have not recognized them yet. Chosen one. Heaven rarely announces provision with fireworks. More often it begins with alignment, subtle shifts, small doors opening without resistance, things working with less force than before. That is how you know this is not luck, it is order. Divine funding does not shout, it arranges. Anointed one of the earliest external signs that God is funding your life is timing. Things start landing at just the right moment. Not early enough to inflate your ego, not late enough to break your faith. You receive information when you are ready to use it. You meet people when you have the maturity to discern them. Opportunities arise when you finally have the clarity to say yes or no without fear. Chosen one, look closely at your recent weeks. You may have noticed expenses resolving themselves without drama, problems that once spiraled, now closing cleanly, a conversation that cleared confusion, a delay that saved you from a wrong commitment. These are not random events. They are indicators that your life is being managed by something higher than your own vigilance. Anointed One, divine funding also reveals itself through pruning. Some connections will fade. Some invitations will stop coming. Some dynamics will feel uncomfortable to maintain. This is not loss. This is protection. God does not pour new wine into old containers. He does not add weight to unstable structures. When something leaves, ask whether it was built for survival or for stewardship. Chosen One, I need you to hear this without fear. Not everyone who benefited from your struggle is meant to benefit from your overflow. Some people were comfortable when you were overgiving, undercharging, over-explaining, and overstretching. As provision increases, boundaries must mature. This is not selfishness. This is wisdom. Anointed One, another sign of divine funding is that ideas begin to arrive with peace attached. Not frantic inspiration, not pressured urgency, but clear, steady insight. You start seeing solutions instead of problems, pathways instead of walls. This is how heaven invests. It sends strategy before supply, so the supply has direction. Chosen One, you may also notice that your tolerance for chaos is decreasing. Environments that once felt normal now feel draining. Noise becomes obvious. Drama becomes unattractive. That is because your spirit is being tuned to a different frequency. Provision flows where peace is honored. Anointed One, let me ground this in something practical. Divine provision does not remove effort, but it removes futility. You may still work, but your work will start producing cleaner results. You may still plan, but your plans will require fewer revisions. You may still face challenges, but they will not dismantle you emotionally. That is the difference. Chosen One, the wealth shift you are entering is not only financial, it is energetic, emotional, relational. You are being resourced with clarity, discernment, rest, and timing. Money follows that alignment. It always has. When the inner order changes, the outer systems respond. Anointed One, be careful not to overlook what is already moving because it does not match your old expectations. Sometimes we expect provision to arrive dramatically because struggle was dramatic, but healing is often quiet. Stability is often subtle. Security often feels almost boring compared to crisis. That does not make it small, it makes it sustainable. Chosen One, as heaven continues to fund your life, your role is not to force outcomes, but to remain aligned. Pay attention to peace. Notice what drains you and what restores you. Honor the invitations that feel clean. Decline the ones that feel heavy. This discernment is part of your provision. Anointed One, there is more unfolding than you can see right now, and it is being arranged with precision. In the next part, I will speak about how to remain positioned without slipping back into fear-based habits, while this provision continues to build momentum. Chosen One, there is a discipline you are being invited into now, and it is not hustle, productivity, or spiritual performance. It is discernment. When heaven begins funding a life, the greatest risk is not lack, it is misalignment. Provision magnifies direction. Whatever you point it at, it will accelerate. That is why this season demands clarity more than speed. Anointed One, fear-based habits do not disappear automatically just because provision increases. They dissolve through awareness and choice. The old pattern said, say yes quickly before the opportunity disappears. The old pattern said, overgive to feel secure. The old pattern said, accept what is offered, even if it costs your peace. Those habits were formed in scarcity. They are not sinful, they are outdated. Chosen one, you are being asked to slow your responses, not your obedience. There is a difference. Obedience comes from alignment. Impulse comes from fear. In this season, you will notice that God gives you a pause, a breath between the offer and the answer. A moment of stillness before the decision. That pause is protection. It is where wisdom speaks. Anointed one, remaining positioned does not mean doing more spiritual things. It means honoring what restores you. Pay attention to how your body reacts to certain choices. Notice when your chest tightens or your stomach sinks. That is not weakness, that is information. Your nervous system is learning to tell the truth now that it no longer has to scream to be heard. Chosen one, divine funding also requires you to let go of proving. When provision begins to flow, the temptation to justify yourself increases. To explain your worth, to defend your choices, to show that you deserve what is happening. But heaven does not fund explanations, it funds obedience. You do not owe anyone a performance to validate what God is doing in your life. Anointed one, some people will misunderstand your boundaries. They may call you distant or changed. Let them. You are not withdrawing, you are consolidating. You are gathering your energy so it can be invested wisely. A funded life is not a loud life, it is a focused one. Chosen one, there will be moments where fear tries to re-enter disguised as responsibility. It will sound like, what if this disappears? What if it stops? What if I mess it up? When that voice rises, return to what is written. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Stillness here means you refuse to rehearse disaster. You refuse to let imagined futures steal present peace. Anointed one, staying positioned also means honoring rhythm. There are seasons for building and seasons for resting. Provision flows best where rhythm is respected. Burnout blocks clarity. Exhaustion distorts discernment. If you feel tired, that is not a failure. It is an invitation to realign your pace with your source. Chosen one, this is how you remain in flow. You choose rest without guilt. You choose clarity over urgency. You choose peace over pressure. And as you do, provision continues to meet you without force. In the next part, I will speak about how your relationship with money itself begins to change when God becomes the source, and why this inner shift is essential for what comes next. Chosen one. When God begins funding your life, your relationship with money must be healed, not idolized. Money is a tool, but it also carries memory. It remembers how it was used, how it was chased, how it was feared. Many people ask for increase without addressing the emotional history they carry around provision. Heaven does not skip that step. Anointed one, money has never been the problem. The problem was the agreement you made with it during seasons of lack. The agreement that said, money decides my safety. Money decides my worth. Money decides my peace. That agreement kept you vigilant, but it also kept you tense. Divine funding breaks that contract. Chosen one, you are learning to see money as a servant, not a signal, not a verdict on your value, not a measure of your faith, not a reason to panic or perform. It becomes simply one of many resources God uses to support your assignment. When this shift happens, money loses its emotional charge. Anointed one, you may notice that you think differently about spending. You are no longer driven by relief purchases or fear-based saving. You begin to ask quieter questions. Does this align? Does this support the life I am building? Does this create peace or pressure? These questions are signs of maturity, not restriction. Chosen one, divine funding also teaches generosity without depletion. In the past, you may have given from guilt or urgency. You gave to feel safe. You gave to avoid conflict. You gave to prove goodness. In this season, giving becomes intentional, clean, joyful. You give because it aligns, not because you are afraid of what happens if you do not. Anointed one. There is also a boundary being restored around what you carry financially for others. You are not meant to rescue people at the cost of your own stability. Compassion without wisdom leads to exhaustion. God does not fund burnout. He funds stewardship. Chosen one, remember this. Stewardship is not control. It is partnership. You listen, you respond, you adjust, and you trust that provision does not disappear when you say no to what is misaligned. In fact, provision often increases when you stop leaking energy into places that cannot hold it. Anointed one, there may be moments where increase feels uncomfortable. When you receive more than you expected, when things resolve faster than you planned, when doors open without struggle. Do not sabotage that ease by searching for the catch. Ease does not mean you did something wrong. Sometimes it means you finally stopped resisting support. Chosen one, as your relationship with money heals, so does your capacity to lead, to build, to create. Fear no longer dictates your choices. Vision does. And vision attracts provision naturally. This is how heaven funds a life, from the inside out. Anointed one, stay present with this shift, because what is coming next will require the version of you that is no longer ruled by lack, no longer driven by urgency, and no longer defined by survival. Chosen one. As heaven continues to fund your life, you will notice a deeper shift taking place that goes beyond circumstances. Your inner authority is being restored. You are no longer asking permission to trust yourself. You are no longer second-guessing every decision as if one mistake could undo everything. That fear belonged to a season where everything felt fragile. This season is different. What God establishes now is not easily shaken. Anointed one, there is a quiet confidence beginning to rise in you. Not arrogance, not entitlement. Confidence rooted in knowing you are supported. You start making decisions from center instead of from panic. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand your assignment. You stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios in your mind. That is not because you became careless. It is because you became anchored. Chosen one, divine funding produces authority before visibility. You may not feel louder, but you will feel clearer. You will speak less, but when you speak, it carries weight. People will start responding to your presence differently, not because you demanded respect, but because peace commands attention. When heaven backs a life, the atmosphere around that person shifts. Anointed one, this is where leadership begins to emerge naturally, not the kind that forces influence, but the kind that stabilizes rooms. You will notice people coming to you for clarity, not drama, for grounding, not chaos. That is because you are no longer leaking energy into fear. You are holding it with intention. Chosen one, remember this. Authority grows where responsibility is carried without anxiety. You are learning to carry weight without tension. That is rare. And that is why this season matters so much. Heaven does not fund panic. It funds stewardship. And you are becoming a steward who can be trusted with more. Anointed one, in the next part I am going to speak about how your environment will begin responding to this shift and why some things will naturally fall away as others come into alignment. Chosen one. When divine funding settles into a life, the environment adjusts. Not all at once, and not always comfortably. Some things will feel out of place. Old habits, old conversations, old rhythms that once felt normal may now feel heavy. This is not loss. This is refinement. Anointed one, you are outgrowing certain patterns because they were built for survival, not stewardship. Late nights driven by anxiety, constant multitasking that leaves no room for presence, conversations centered on fear, complaint, or comparison. These things cannot coexist with sustained provision. They drain clarity. They distort perspective. Chosen one, do not grieve what no longer fits. Thank it for getting you through and release it with grace. Elevation always requires